Morning everybody, I'm JR Mayo. So today we're going to talk about replacing some valves in a rack. We're getting ready to do a retro on this rack. Currently it's running off of R22 and we want to convert it to 449. But doing that we have to change some oil, we have to change some valves. And when we're changing valves, we got to evacuate refrigerant out of this unit because we don't want to lose any of it. And of course we got to stay in compliance with EPA. So we're going to be changing out these valves in this rack today, and I'll show you how we pump them down. The valves we're going to replace today is our holdback valve, our split valve, and our heat reclaim valve. So we want to stop the flow of refrigerant and go to those so we can pump it out. One of the first valves we're going to replace is our three-way split valve, right there. We want to cut this valve out and install the new valve. This valve has been running off of R22. Change the oil on these, the seals are going to want to leak with this new 449 refrigerant. So that's why we place these valves, get them out here. One of the other valves we're going to replace is our heat reclaim valve, and I'll show you where it goes. Our heat reclaim valve is located right here. Basically what it does is anytime we want to use free heat for the store for hot water, we can redirect the hot gas before it goes to the condenser into a reclaim source. And this valve is what does that for us. And finally, one of the last valves we're going to replace is our head pressure control valve, located like this. And it's going to be installed right here. And this is for controlling head pressure on the condenser during low ambient conditions. It does naturally what it says. It's head pressure control, and we're going to hold back. A lot of people call it a hold back valve as a slang. So those are the three valves we plan on changing today.
All right, so what we want to do is we want to override all our compressors on. What this is going to do is lower our suction pressure, and that'll make it to where we can get our cases down to a lower temperature.
This holdback valve has a check valve in between it before it does, and basically what it's doing is when we have low ambient conditions, we're holding back refrigerant to keep our head pressure up. So what I would like to do first is we're going to unscrew the cap, that screw in there that we can use to adjust how much pressure we're holding back. Well, we want that all the way out. We don't want to hold any refrigerant back while we pump this unit down. So we're just going to screw this out as far as it goes. So we're going to remove some of these clamps here to get the stuff out of our way. These pipe clamps help keep the pipe steady from falling and vibrating. We want to de-energize these valves. We don't want any power on them. So we're going to go find where the power comes from and turn the power off.
Now that our suction pressure is lower and all of our case temperatures are lower, we can go through and start eliminating our override. So I'm going to go menu 843. All my compressor overrides are clear. All right, I left my split on. And now we can start valving everything off. So now we're ready to remove the gas from the condenser. What we're going to do is we're going to pump it over to the other racks running lower suction. We're going to move all the gas over there.
So the first one we want to valve off is the inlet to our receiver. Now, all this piping here is isolated from that. The other one we can isolate is this valve there. Discharge, leaving the oil separator going into all of our valves. Now this is isolated, this is isolated. The only thing we need to pump out are our condensers. This is the rack we're going to pump into. This rack runs about a 12-pound suction. It's a lot lower than that one. We already have our Schrader core on there. We removed the core so it'll pump out a lot faster. Let's go ahead and turn that bad boy on. So over there, our gauges are showing about 15 pounds. We have about 15 pounds here, so now we need to isolate all these suction circuits so that our compressors are only going to pull on our condensers. I'll start valving off these suctions and we can see the pressure drop on that. So here we go. Get these turned off. Now as you notice, the compressor shut off, so what we'll do is override it on. Now we have one compressor running, pulling out into the suction a little bit. We'll go watch our gauges until we get down below 0 pounds over here.
0.
Okay, we're going to turn this back off then. Now we'll isolate our unit that we just worked on, turn this rack back on, and we should be good to go. All right, all the gas is out of the system. Now we're going to cut these valves out. It's a little bit easier cutting them out, then we'll burn the fittings out. There we go. All right, good. All right, we got our reclaim valve in. The reason we did that one first because it's way back there. We don't want to be reaching over this valve to get to that valve. Perfect. All right, we've got both valves replaced, the mirror inspection, and then we're going to cut this valve out, replace it. We're also going to remove these. There's some seals in there we want to replace, and we got some new ones right here waiting for it. So we'll unscrew those, unbolt them, put these seals in, and then we'll be ready to pull a vacuum and start this rack back up. Make sure you put your whole back valve screen back in there. Slips right in there. All right, now we've got all of our valves in. We did a mirror inspection for leaks, didn't see any in there. And he's putting the new gaskets on the check valves. I'll grab a vacuum pump. We'll throw a pump on there, pull all the air out of the system, and then fire it back up. Something I want to show you guys real quick. It doesn't really take long. If you notice, we shut the rack down about 9:30 and it's almost 11 o'clock and we're pulling a vacuum. So it doesn't have to take long to do these. If you do it right, you do it the correct procedure, and you pull it out, you can have one of these replaced in less than 2 hours. We're going to start this engine back up and let it roar. So we'll come over here, valve off both of those. Open that one up first. Very good. And then we'll open up our pilot lines and our discharge valve, and we can go ahead and start these compressors and get them running, can't we? All right. Now we'll fire our compressors. All right, we got our rack back up and running. Last thing we're going to do is he's putting our valves back in, our Schrader core valves back in, and then we're going to do a leak check on this rack. We're just going to go over the whole rack to make sure we're good. And then our next step for a conversion on this is we'll have to change all the oil in this rack. So we might have to do 2 oil changes. We'll see how it comes along, and change a bunch of gaskets that are on here for other stuff, and we'll be ready to pull all this R22 out. I appreciate everybody tuning in and watching this video. If you have any questions, please comment below, and hopefully I'll get back to you. Thank you. Have a good one.
Sometimes whenever we're moving gas and it's moving at a high velocity, you can get a little bit of static electricity. And it just shot me.